Why do folks come to us, folks just like you? It's because we help them solve some of the problems and take advantage of some of the opportunities they have in the fourth of four paths they walk through during their life. Now, what do I mean paths they walk through? Well, you know, we all have different phases in our life. One way to model it is to break it into four parts. And the first part I'll call school. This is your life up to the point you graduated from high school or trade school or college or graduate school and went off into the world. And generally speaking, you were taken care of by your parents. And, you know, if you think about it, school is really there to teach you some basic skills and get us a reasonable distance past puberty before it plunges us out onto the second path, which I'll call work. Now, on the work path is where you get your first job. You may pack up the car with all your stuff, drive off to another city, and you know, find an apartment to live in, get a job, you know, worry about checkbooks and savings and all that stuff. You might look back at your back home and see your mother converting your childhood bedroom into her sewing room, right? But this is where we basically grow up. And we don't have much money at that point. In fact, we might actually have a lot of student debt as we go into this second path, the second phase. But, you know, after a while, we may meet some, you know, guy or gal that we just can't live without, and we may decide to get married, okay, and set up a household together. This is another transition that's a big change for people. Now you've got to learn to live with someone else, set up a household, budget, all the things that come with marriage. Hopefully it went well. Maybe you got some help. Hopefully it was a marriage counselor and not a matrimonial lawyer. But here we enter this marriage phase, and very often early in that phase, we decide to have children. We decide to have kids of our own. That brings another whole set of responsibilities. You realize that people are now dependent on you. You do things like, you know, you go out and buy your first life insurance policy on yourself. So now we go through this marriage phase. Now, in this marriage phase, the finances, the money is somewhat easy. Most of us, we get a paycheck. And to maximize what we can put away for retirement, we take money before the tax man has even touched it, and we put it here in our IRA or 401k. And then we take the rest of the money, some of it goes to the IRS, and then we get to keep what's left. And we get to spend it on things like, you know, the first family van, a bigger house, braces, whatever. And so we go on through marriage, and eventually our kids, they kind of, you know, leave the house and go back and start in this path ourselves. And we continue over those years to put more and more money into our IRA and 401k. And then finally, we come to another transition where we actually move into retirement. And some things happen when we do that. One thing is our paycheck stops. We've been laid off. Now, in retirement, we have new sources of income. Most of us have Social Security. But then you got to decide, well, should I take it right away? Should I wait to 70 when it's bigger for the rest of my life? Should one of us take it early, one of us take it late? All kinds of key decisions to make. Maybe you're one of the lucky folks that has a pension. Well, should I take it as a lump sum? And if I take it as a pension, they got all those things listed, 100% survivor, 75% survivor, 50%. What's the right thing for me? And we begin to realize that income has become very important. Where is the money going to come from for the rest of my life? How much can I spend? Am I going to run out of money? Am I not spending enough? And I could spend more and enjoy more, particularly in the early years of retirement. So we begin to realize the importance of income. Then we come to investments. Now, back here while you were working, your goal was to make that pot as big as it can be. And when you enter retirement, it's probably as big as it's ever been. And it's the accumulation phase. You've all heard the term ROI, right? What's that stand for? It stands for return on investment. I'm after return. But now, once I get into this fourth stage, this fourth path, all of a sudden ROI takes a different meaning. It stands for reliability of income. Income becomes important. And guess what? The way you've invested back here has always been for accumulation, not for income. It's kind of common sense that if I've gone through this transition, I may need a different set of investments that I'm not even familiar with. And boy, most 401k plans are designed for accumulation. They don't really want you to stay in there throughout your retirement years. That's not the investments they built for it. So you're going to go through this transition where investments become important. Then we come to taxes. Guess what? All these years here, you've been saving money in your 401k. You haven't paid taxes on it. Now, in these income years, those taxes have to be paid. And what's else is important is because that money from your IRA is going to come out on top of your Social Security pension and things, it's going to be taxed at your highest marginal rate. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is in retirement is really the first time you've had the opportunity to manipulate and change which of the three tax buckets you're taking income out of every year. Before this, you pretty much had a paycheck, but now you've got some choices. You also have the opportunity, especially in the early years, to move money between those three tax buckets to minimize the taxes in the decades to come. And, you know, you may find that the strategies you can use to minimize taxes may have a bigger impact on how much income you get to spend over the next third of a century, a bigger impact than just trying to get a little bit more out of the investments. And then finally, we come to legacy. You know, what you don't manage to spend, you probably want to send back to those kids, and maybe by now, grandkids. And you want to make sure it goes there and not to lawyers and not to the government. And there's a set of strategies there. So that's what we do. We help people both go through this transition and manage their world in this fourth path, this fourth phase of life. And, you know, it's, again, a very complicated phase. You only get to retire once. There's no do-over. So it's important to do it right to start, or the retirement won't turn out the way that you hoped it would. Well, I hope this has been helpful. If you'd like to know more, click on the Start Here button, and we'll talk to you later.